And I am live. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Fieldhouse Files live post-game show after the Pacers get the win over the Milwaukee Bucks 117-98 here Saturday afternoon to kind of get this playoffs underway. It was great to see that, even though I'm not a fan of these 1 o'clock starts, right? How many of us really want to wake up and get right into it? I know I don't, but maybe I'm in the by myself there, because I know for many, you do want to get to it. You don't want to sit around all day and have to wait till a 9:30 start like you will for Game 4 coming up in Milwaukee. Not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. Again, the Pacers with a double-digit win. They were in control much of the way, and obviously coming into this one of the biggest concerns is obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo. How dominant can he be? At what point can you hold him down? I think keeping him under 40, phenomenal. Keeping them to 42% shooting, really good. Keeping them to 24% from three-point land, 9 of 27, even better. So overall, it was a glowing success for this Indiana Pacers team Saturday in Game 1. I had to go back and look up history. I couldn't remember when the last time the Pacers had won Game 1, because they didn't last year. Bucks lost on the road. Knicks lost on the road. Celtics lost on the road. But finally, for the first time since 2018 against the Cavaliers, you probably all remember that 7-game series. We all probably remember, I think it was Game 6 in Indy, where there was that goaltending call that was not made with Oladipo and LeBron, and ultimately the Cavs winning that series. It seems like several lifetimes ago for me, but back in 2018, the first time they won Game 1. Now, it certainly didn't deter them last postseason, taking the first series and the second to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but it's definitely set yourself up for much more success taking that Game 1. Now, I thought it was interesting. I had a couple people text me that were sitting down low saying, hey, no juice, no interest, no focus from this Bucks team early on. And I thought that ultimately played out as early on. It was basically Giannis with anybody. I might as well, and you might as well, been out there with Giannis there in the first half. It was basically him on an island. And all I kept thinking about was, this can't be any fun for Giannis. He's sitting there. He won a title in 2021, but that too has to feel like a distant memory. He's not getting the support from his other teammates that you would expect. And I like the overhaul that the Bucks made to their roster this season, in large part to add younger players and to add shooting. Well, that didn't pan out in today's game. Just 9 of 37. You had Ryan Rollins, the starting point guard, because Dame's out, make 4 of those. How about Miles Turner, the Pacers center? He too made 4 of those. He made the first to get the game started, which I thought was all too fitting, right? Given his history with the franchise, year 10, the fact that he's never had home court in his tenure with the Indiana Pacers here. But now for the first time he did. He made the first bucket, then he made the dagger with about 2 minutes left, and that was all she wrote. It was about a 12-point game. It stretched it to 15, and at that point, the Bucks were, you could tell, kind of exhausted and knew this was not their night. Pacers have seen that before. They felt that in one of their last regular season games against the Bucks, where they just couldn't throw it into the ocean. So water's going to find its level. They're going to even out. They're not going to shoot this bad throughout the series. So if you're a Bucks fan, that part certainly has to be encouraging moving forward. But at the same time, you got to love the way in which the Pacers set the tone, that they set the pace. They want to be one of the fastest teams going. And in large part, that means grabbing the rebound, ripping it down, and going. Doesn't matter who has it, get it down the floor. They're really trying to score in about 8 seconds or less, trying to take advantage before the defense is set, because where this team is weaker is when you have to get into the half court, when you got to run a play or create something here. They're much better free flowing, taking advantage there on the run. And so, points in transition here, 22-5 in favor of the Pacers. And I think until the very end, it was like 21-2. So check mark for the Pacers on that mark. How about them keeping their turnovers down to just 8? Remarkable. How about them winning the rebounding battle? Sure, you're going to have a little bit more rebounds, certainly when the other team is missing. But you even look at offensive rebounds. Bucks didn't have that many more. They had just 8. The Pacers with 5. That's another check mark mark towards the Pacers' success there as they were able to get it done. They dominated the first half. They led 33-25 after one, outscored the Bucks then in a dominant second quarter run, 34-18. And I thought that was really the difference as they closed that second quarter on a 22-7 run to go into halftime up by 24, and you knew the Bucks weren't done yet. You knew the Bucks were going to make a run. Ultimately, they were able to slice that in half down to 12, but never were able to get it within single digits in this game one battle. I thought Pacer fans showed out and impressed. Oh, we certainly heard them, didn't we? With their various chants as everyone was decked out in the gold. I would rather them not do the gold t-shirts. I think that's kind of over with. I think that was the last decade for one. But secondly, if they're wearing the white city edition uniforms, you shouldn't be giving out gold t-shirts. It should maybe be the teal. I love the teal that was designed for those city edition uniforms. On top of that, they like that color scheme so much that they gave it off to their G League team, now called the Boom, which is hilarious. We can talk about that on another live chat here. But instead, the Mad Ants become the Boom here, and they keep those colors. You heard a lot of Bobby Sucks chants. I kind of feel bad because if you listen to my Fieldhouse Files podcast, you heard from Jim Ozarski, the beat writer covering the Bucks, and you heard about the challenge in that he's dealt with and faced throughout the year, both injuries, both taking a banned substance to having a death, experiencing that within his family for the first time, and then the heartbreak of trying to come back and make a role and make a difference late in the season for his Bucks team. But as much as this feels like a rematch, it's really not. There's just so many changes within this Bucks roster that it's the same teams, it's the same coaches, but the players on one side much different. And a couple of them that were brought in very much disappointed for the Bucks. Kyle Kuzma, he's getting incredible wealth, probably a $25 million contract. Actually, let's look that up because I'm sure it's ridiculous what he signed back with the Washington Wizards. He's getting 25. I nailed it. 25 million. I remember correctly there. And for him to have a big donut is wildly unsuccessful. 0 for 5, 0 for 2 from 3, no rebounds, 0 assists, and 2 fouls in 22 minutes. That's terrible. I could even live with the 0 points, but go make an impact somewhere. Go grab some rebounds, get some assists, and he did neither there. And again, if you're Giannis, you got to be just throw your hands up in the air and be like, what are we doing? It's got to be better than this. Then you look on down the line, Ryan Rollins, who's starting in place of Dame, 5 points. I think I mentioned earlier he made 4 3. Sorry, he was 1 of 4 from 3. Needed to correct myself there. But yeah, Rollins, 5 points. Taurean Prince, 0 points. Gary Trent Jr. off the bench, solid at 14 points. I think he could be a difference maker in this series. Kevin Porter Jr. potentially could too for the Bucks. He had 12 points, 0 for 2 from 3. So this Bucks team, they missed all their threes, did not shoot it well from downtown. Pacers, though, only outscored them by 12 points from 3 in what ultimately was a 19-point win. So the Pacers also have to feel pretty happy about that. As much as the Bucks didn't make them, they didn't either. Pacers shot below 40% from distance and could easily make 18 to 23s in some of these games if they took what the defense was giving them there. And that's very much what this Tyrese Halliburton-led offense is looking for. I thought defensively this team was really sound. This Bucks team has averaged 125 points per game over their last 8 regular season games. They went 8-0 to finish the season to get them into this 5th seed. And if it was not for Halliburton's miraculous 4-point play, that fadeaway 3 into the left corner to get that win over the Bucks in mid-March, their second to last meeting, this game would have been on the Bucks floor because the Bucks had the tiebreaker and the Bucks would have had another win to their win column there. So let's break down what looked good from the Pacers standpoint, because you could go so many directions with this one. And by the way, feel free to jump in the chat here and ask any questions or leave any thoughts. MK Sinks, I remember you from last year, so that's fantastic as we resume these post-game live chats all throughout this Pacers playoff run, however far it may go. It could go to 7 games, I think, in this series with the Bucks, or maybe it'll go a couple of rounds. We shall see. Let's go down the starting lineup first. Tyrese Halliburton, not a great game. Really not. Did have 12 assists, did grab 7 rebounds. And I think to the point about Kuzma, this is where you can make a difference, even if your shots aren't falling. Ty wasn't seeing shots go down, missed his first couple, missed all 7 from 3-point land. That's not sustainable. He's going to make 3 or 4 threes per game, I think, the rest of the series. So for him to only have 10 points, he still was positive because of his influence on the offense and able to dish out those 12 assists and read and react within the defense and what they are looking at for. But just 3 of 13 from the field. I thought he was good, but not great. Nothing special, certainly not at the level you would expect from your all-star. So that gives hope for future games here coming up in the postseason. Let's go to the other all-star, Pascal Siakam, who on my At the Buzzer column, which you can read at fieldhousefiles.com, I highlighted him as the star of the game. Obviously, Giannis is the best player in the series. Sure, you could have given him the star of the game. You could probably give that to him for every game this series. But in a game where the Pacers dominated, that was so lopsided, I couldn't give it to someone on the Bucks, and Giannis would have been the only option there. For me, it's Siakam, because what he does often gets overlooked. What he often does is just slide into the background and handle whatever the team needs. He's a utility knife, very much like Andrew Nembhard as well. And so ultimately, it wasn't interesting for me to see that by the end of the game, he did end up leading the Pacers in scoring, even though he went about it quietly. He made 10 of his 15 shots, had 25 points, had 7 rebounds, took on defensive assignments more than I expected and more than I think he did last year. And I'd like to see that. He's definitely a bucket getter. He's a king in the mid-range, can thrive in there, can also be physical underneath. I thought it was actually surprising the fact he only got 2 free throw attempts in this one. It was Benedict Mathurin, who I want to get into in a bit, that led the Pacers in free throw attempts, making all 8 of his shots. MK Sink says it's exciting to start these post-game chats again. Thrilled to see Mathurin in his playoff debut, and a decent one at that. What a team win for the Pacers. Yeah, let's talk about Mathurin since you brought him up as well. I I would have loved to have a heart monitor on Mathurin during team warmups, during intros, and certainly as he checked into the game, because he was chomping at the bit to get in there. It was painful for him to sit on the sidelines, out of uniform, unable to contribute on the court, and without any playoff experience and such. You can't. It's difficult to contribute other ways because he hadn't been there, done that, or faced this team in the playoffs. This is his first crack at it, and I thought he did a really good, sound job of starring in his role in this one. And he only was 2 of 7 from the field, but he kept attacking and got to the free throw line. And I think that's a subtle way in which it's going to come into great need sometime throughout this playoff series when the Pacers maybe go on a drought. We saw a brief one there towards the end of the game, although fortunately for the Pacers, the Bucks also had a drought, but during that dry spell, the Pacers missed 9 shots in a row. Giannis altered a couple of them. They had one of their rare turnovers. But Mathurin throughout this one was just solid. Didn't play, even though I would have wanted to monitor his heart rate and such. I don't think the moment was too big for him. I don't think he got overly aggressive in a negative light by any means. And he finished with 13 points, 5 rebounds off the bench for a bench group that I thought looked much improved, looked more like themselves. Now, it's hard to judge a little bit the last couple of weeks of the season where the Pacers are playing different lineups, where the bench is not truly the bench, where in the final week, Halliburton and Siakam both sat out, which I think was the right call to get them additional rest. And ultimately, that was about 2 weeks of no game action for your 2 stars, who also had a busy offseason last year. But Mathurin in there, he's a key piece for this Pacers team moving forward. So I would agree with those thoughts. Space Cat says Milwaukee has the best player. Indy has the best team. Pacers over the Bucks in 7. Yeah, I would completely agree with that sentiment. This is a better Bucks team than last year. And I'm not even just saying that because Giannis is available. And obviously Giannis is much better than Dame at this point in their career and all time. But let's pretend for a moment that Dame is not back and is not going to play, even though all accounts seem to be headed that he will. Giannis does so much. And then on top of that, they surrounded him with what he needs. And what I've been saying that the Lakers need to do with LeBron, and that's surrounding him with shooters. Give them guys that really complement him, that every time Giannis attacks, you're going to have the defense collapse, sag off, send 2 and 3 bodies. Well, that means other guys are open. And then you could allow for Giannis to spray the ball out around the perimeter for guys to knock down threes like Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, who didn't make any shots in this one. So you could at least understand what the Bucks were doing in their team building this season. They moved on from Middleton. Patrick Beverley's not there as a pest anymore. Several other players aren't as well. But in this one, those players did not deliver, especially from the three-point line, again, where the Bucks were just 24%. I expect better three-point shooting in the times to come. And the Pacers in this one, it's tough choices, I think, for the coaching staff in terms of depth and what they are doing here. Because at what point do you make corrections and break up what had worked for you throughout the season? And I think ultimately you need to play the best group for this matchup, and that includes Jarris Walker with his size, his physicality, his ability to shoot from distance. All the things of interest lead to Jarris Walker playing more. Sorry, just tweeting this out to get more fans in here post game. But I like Jarris Walker's minutes, by the way, too. Played 17 minutes, had 5 quick rebounds in just his first burst. Also knocked down that 3-pointer out on the right wing. Was really good. But I think Jarris Walker has a place. I think Ben Shepherd not quite recovered from that left great big toe. And also you're trying to trim down the roster. And also in this one, in totality, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you played 10 guys. You really don't want to play more than 10 guys, I think, in the rotation. So right now it's Shepherd on the outside, Walker in. I was surprised Bryant played 12 minutes. I thought he'd probably play more like 8. I did not understand him guarding Giannis several different times down the floor, and that's not on him. I mean, but Giannis is going to blow past him at the 3-point line every single time. And so I'll be curious if that continues in the second game coming up on Tuesday. What do I put Dame's chances to start in game 2? It sounded like he could be back for game 2 or 3. Yeah, I saw that report from Shams, who was ahead of it with Giannis last year. He's clearly well tied in with the front office there with the Bucks and puts that out there. Based on that, I thought originally he wouldn't play at all in the postseason. Just blood clots, you don't see that. With blood clots, you're out 3 months at the least. Those are serious injuries, just health concerns beyond the basketball standpoint. Then you see him starting to make appearances at practice, and then the team puts out a statement that he's progressing on Tuesday, I think it was. All right, I thought there was a slim chance he would return, but then it's clear as day. Dame's prioritizing playing in the series, and he's recovered well enough. And that's the credit to the medical staff, a credit to the personal doctors he went to, which Doc Rivers credited the Mayo Clinic and all that. And I discussed this on the Fieldhouse Files podcast that I put out on Friday. I encourage you to take a listen to that one if you have not already. And going into this one, I was like, all right, you'll probably want to get through these 2 games, get back to Milwaukee, and then give Dame a chance to play there after he's gotten maybe a practice or 2 under his belt, that he's played with some physicality for a few days. Because remember, it's not just the health concern, but it's also kept him off the court, meaning he has no game rhythm, no game shape. He's probably been able to shoot some, but not a ton. So that's concerning just from a basketball standpoint. I don't care if you're a 9-time All-Star like he is. I do wonder what kind of conditioning and playing level he'll be at whenever he does inevitably return. But the report today suggested to me that he's going to try to give it a go for game 2. And if not, he'll certainly be ready to go for game 3 when the series shifts back to Milwaukee. That game, not until next Friday. That would give him a full week plus since he returned to full action on Thursday up in Milwaukee, no longer on blood thinner medication, which is fantastic for this right calf that had a blood clot, is able to compete and battle and be physical again. That's why I feel like game 3 is more realistic, but I also know, can the Bucks really afford to go down 0-2? Can the Bucks really afford to not send additional help with Giannis out there? Even, Lillard's not going to go 0 for 5 and have 0 points like Kuzma in 22 minutes, right? So if he's out there just launching a couple threes, making them, and doing decent defense, I mean, it's better than what you had at least in this game. So, yeah, it's something the Pacers have to be prepared for. I think going into the series, I wouldn't have spent much time discussing it or game planning for it because of the uncertainty. And I like to focus, and coaches will talk to you about focusing on what you know, about the current circumstances and about what you can expect, and then going from there. And so going into this series, you didn't expect for Dame to necessarily play or be available right away in these first couple of games. So I don't think you waste time doing so. And now, because of the concert at the Fieldhouse on Monday, we know game 2 is going to be on Tuesday, and that's what it was. And so that gives these teams extra days as well to prepare for a certain change. So if now maybe leading into game 2 prep, I would spend a little bit of time talking about, all right, now if Dame's in there, here are 2 or 3 different things that the Pacers will focus on because of it. Aaron Nesmith, 7.6 rebounds, very good defensively. Thought it was a concern there early in the second half when he picked up a third foul, but then didn't pick up another the rest of the way. He started the game on Kyle Kuzma and spent a lot of time on him. And so, yeah, sure, give him a lot of credit too for Kuzma having an awful day. He also spent time, by the way, on Giannis in spurts, and he's going to. He's a player with some size, not the size you really want. You really want a 6'8", 6'9" guy guarding these big wings, the most valuable position, I think, in the league. The Pacers just have not had that for almost a decade now. I'd like to see that be something they address here in the offseason. They have undersized wings, and so Nesmith did a nice job with that. Nembhard, fantastic, especially there in that first half. That's where he scored 15 of his 17 points, had 4 rebounds, had 5 assists. He's a guy that will never jump out at you at the box score. I mean, I guess maybe that Golden State game or the game winner at the Lakers, he had his rookie year, but more than anything, that guy is the most selfless guy there is. He's a player that it will live under the radar and do the dirty work and do, much like I said about Siakam, do whatever the team needs, whether that's scoring, usually that's defense, hard play. It's being smart and crafty defensively, swiping at the ball, getting steals, getting out in transition. He signed a contract extension last summer. At the end of the season, he was eligible a year earlier because he was the first pick of the second round. What was that, back in 2022? And then Mathurin, being a lottery pick, he'll be eligible for a contract extension this summer. He'll be on the rookie scale contract for 1 more year, but still, that's a great value for Nembhard. I think it comes in at like $18 million per year. He's a starter, dependable, plays both ends of the floor. He has certainly played out, exceeded his draft positioning, no doubt about that. What's going on with Shepherd? I'm asked. It's a left great big toe injury. I do expect him to be available. He was available for today's game. They just elected not to go with him. I think because of defense, there will be circumstances where he will be called upon to play in this series. We didn't see that here in this one. I thought Jarris Walker did well, kind of getting his minutes, playing 17 minutes in this one. And I'm good with that, especially considering the fact that Shepherd's hadn't played for 2 weeks. He's certainly not 100%. He's doing better, practicing, and is available for this one, was in uniform. But I think, what if you could get Shepherd another week of rest and not play him potentially to game 3? And I think he's probably on a need basis in this series, just because of the size, just because of the other better options out there, like I mentioned, in Jarris Walker. But for Shepherd to be the only injury concern, and I'm not including Isaiah Jackson in that, he's been out basically the whole season with the Achilles injury, so that is a known factor. For Shepherd to be the only Pacers injury, that's a huge win for everyone watching this series. Same really goes for the Bucks whenever Damian Lillard returns. It was just Lillard out and role player and Tyler Smith out with an ankle injury. And so I like the fact that injuries hopefully should not have much of a factor in this series. I'm all about leveling the playing field and hoping for everyone to have their best players out there, for everyone to get their best efforts, and for the best team to win. And right now, there's no doubt to me that it's this Pacers team. I don't think they'll sweep. This Bucks team's going to make it interesting. Giannis will go off for a 50-point game. They're going to knock down 23s in a game, I think. But that said, this was a commanding Pacers win that they handled at both ends. They won the rebounding battle, kept their turnovers to just 8, started the game well, finished the half well, finished the game strong. and got contributions from all over. I still believe they need one more supercharged player, whether that's Mathern, whether that's Walker. Maybe it's coming through a trade to thrust them into championship contender conversation, but they got to be very happy with where they're at. And one game down, 15 wins to go for their quest for a championship. Although I think in the second round, Cleveland would make it very, very difficult. A team that's playing as well as anyone did throughout the season. I think they won 63 games. I want to say maybe 68, whatever it was, led the Eastern Conference by a wide margin. And then the Celtics are there, and we all know exactly what they are. They're the reigning champs. They got the wing presence. They got the experience with Porzingis, with Drew Holiday, with Al Horford. It's a selfless team, a couple of wings in Brown and Tatum who can go off in a hurry. But that's thoughts for down the road. For now, the Pacers took care of this, started off the NBA playoffs as a whole. You had Adam Silver in the building. You had both of the team owners and majority owner and Herb Simon, minority owner and Stephen Rails. Caitlin Clark was up there in the suite with her boyfriend, Connor McCaffrey, who used to work for the team. I thought it was cool to see Travis Best as well as Derek McKee in the crowd, as well as the Pacers were able to get this game one win, dominant 117-98. Yep. Fever season approaching. Had a fan jump on and say that. Yep. Starts next Sunday. So all of full Fever coverage as well, in addition to Pacer playoffs, right here on my YouTube channel, the Fieldhouse Files podcast, and of course at fieldhousefiles.com. So if you're not subscribed to all those, make sure you get that corrected for full coverage. There's a lot going on within the franchises and a lot to be excited about, just because of the team success, or the individual personalities, and the talent level continues to elevate, certainly across the franchises. What other questions do you guys have here as I maybe wrap up this live chat here on this Saturday afternoon? Not nearly as many as we had to get last season started. I got to wonder if that's a Saturday afternoon. So many people with kids, they got a lot going on, and you're out of the house. And I had hoped maybe you had some fans turning on this live broadcast on their drive home, wherever that may have been, not just to central Indiana, but to Fort Wayne or down to Evansville. One of the interesting things I find in this series is the clash of coaching staffs, and the fact that you have two respected head coaches. Both have won championships, but both haven't won in a while. Rick Carlisle winning his championship more than a decade ago in Dallas, and Doc Rivers, it's been quite a while for him. I didn't think he would coach again after he got a nice cush job with ESPN, ABC, being a finals commentator, and he didn't even get to the finals there. As the replacement for Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, because he replaced Darvin Ham mid-season last year after the in-season tournament. And now he's with the Bucks team that I just don't see it. I feel like they need to overhaul the roster, and unfortunately, will Giannis want to stick around for that? They're in a tough spot, right? Because you moved on from Drew Holiday, which I don't think was the right call. Damian Lillard has been injured. He's missed some time. He wasn't full strength during the postseason last year. Giannis didn't play last year and was limited the year before that, I think. And now it's this year. Giannis is playing his best basketball of his career. Who's going to finish top 3 probably in MVP voting, if not top 4? And they're not going to have anything to show for it. So that's going to be very difficult. Question here about how do facilities work between Pacers and Fever? Well, for right now, Pacers have their own practice facility. It's a $50 million practice facility that opened, I think, in 2017. Obviously, the Fever have one that's under construction right now. It's $78 million construction cost estimated. It will open in a couple of years, in time for the 2027, I think, season for the Fever. So right now, they still have better facilities than many of the teams. They have a practice court in there that used to be the Pacers practice court. They have the private locker room, training facility, coaches room, conference room, and all that, in addition to being able to use the main court at the Fieldhouse. But they'll have that incredible practice facility, state-of-the-art. That'll be better than any other one in the 13 WNBA teams that will open in a couple of years. So happy to answer that question. If you're really from Tokyo, that's impressive. Thanks for joining us. You and anyone else, wherever you may be, I appreciate those of you who jumped on for this live post-game show. Again, the Pacers victorious in game one, 117-98, their first win in the opening game, game one, going back to 2018. And so the Pacers coming off a playoff series last year, postseason run to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they ran out of health. And remember, Halliburton didn't play in the final 2 games. Matherin was not available for the postseason. I do think that postseason run, it was not a fluke like the Pacers have been advertising that it wasn't, and certain things like that. I hate when you lean into the negativity. But I do think it was a little bit fool's gold. They just took advantage of circumstances in that first round. Like, to face the Bucks and not play Giannis, that's fortunate. To face the Knicks and Giannis was out, and they had a couple other players miss time, or not Giannis, OG Anunoby was out and other players missed time. That was fortunate. And then you get to the Celtics, you run into the buzzsaw of the best team in the league and get swept, even though you were the team that made things the most interesting and gave them their toughest series during the playoffs. So there was a lot of positives in that and a lot of growth as well. Last season, the goal was to get to the postseason. This game and this series and this playoffs for the Pacers, quite the opposite. It's to show that they can continue on, that they are better than just that of what they showed last year in this regular season, that they have some staying power. It's to also show here that they want to be a championship contending team, and that it wasn't last year. Last year, you maybe were a little bit happy-go-lucky. You were fortunate. You were just happy to be there. That was not at all the case this year. They're on a mission, and you can see that focus, I think, both in their eyes and in their demeanor, the way in which they approach things here. And so I thought you saw a deliberate attack Saturday afternoon in the way in which the Pacers went about things and handled their business early on. They had an 8-point lead after one, a dominant second quarter to grow their lead from 9 to 24 going into halftime, and were never really threatened the rest of the way by the Milwaukee Bucks in this one to get the playoffs started. Any last questions here before I wrap up this live chat here on my Fieldhouse Files YouTube page? If you joined late or missed it, I will be posting it on the Fieldhouse Files podcast as well. And yes, as I mentioned too, the Fever season gets underway in just about a week, next Sunday. And I did think it was cool to see Michael Grady, a friend of mine who I interned for at 1070 The Fan. You know him from, he used to have that morning show with Grady and Big Joe. He, for a long time, was the executive producer of The Fan. He was a MC, and then the later he became the PA announcer for both the Fever and the Pacers, to calling a game. He signed a 1-year contract, as I reported on fieldhousefiles.com. I've written about it a couple times this year. And for him to, it's been fun for him. His first game for ESPN, it was calling Pacers Knicks in the Garden. Then he called the Pacers' second game against the Spurs in Paris. And now he called the Pacers game to open up the 2025 NBA playoffs. And by the way, his analyst, Stephanie White, the Indiana Fever coach, the 1995 Indiana Miss Basketball, 99 Purdue national champion, Fever selection, Fever player, assistant coach, head coach, and now head coach once again. And Caitlin Clark and other Fever players and coaches were in the stands for this one. So it was just a feel-good day, I think, for Pacer fans out there, as the team got started with a 1-0 lead in this best-of-7 series. Another Fever fan on here. I know I have a huge Fever following because of their success in Caitlin. I will answer this one. WNBA, I assume you're talking about League Pass. I think you'll be able to watch them all after the fact. I think within 2 days, you're able to watch all the games. That's at least how it works for the NBA. Probably can't watch the national TV games live on League Pass because they're blocked out. And it's incredible. 41 of 44 Fever games will be on national TV. We heard this week that I think it was 15, if I remember right. It's 14. 14 Fever games will air locally here on WTHR. Reminder, by the way, speaking of local, all these games in the first round will be with the Pacers TV crew on FanDuel Sports Network Indiana. The next game is on NBA TV. So, yeah, they are getting the NBA treatment coming up on Tuesday here in Indianapolis. What I am curious about was, will anything change if Dame becomes available? Will a network want this game? Probably not, because they've already set the network and the network teams. But still, that game becomes all the more interesting for Dame to make his first appearance in more than a month, and what his impact could mean for this series moving forward. So we shall see. A lot of questions with that. Bob says Pacers looked well balanced. Yeah, 100%, Bob. Completely agree with that. And that's what they're going to lean on. That's what they take pride in. That's a big reason why they didn't want to make any changes at the trade deadline, even though they had a rocky start to the season, just 10-15. But then what they finished the year, like 40-17, a dominant March and April, especially when you throw out a couple losses. That Laker one they shouldn't have lost. And then, what was it? The Orlando second to last game, when several key players were sitting, and they were really prioritizing rest in the playoffs over playing their full roster. But I thought TJ McConnell, I was curious what he would look like in this playoff series, because he has not had a good last couple of months, or at least not played up to the level in which he has career years over the last 2 years. And all he did was go in there and change the game a little bit. 11 points, 5 of 7 from the field, 5 assists. That is exactly what you're wanting from your third string point guard right there. Like, he was remarkable for exactly what you wanted. Mathurin led the bench with 13 points. Just exactly what you wanted. So I thought there was a lot of kudos to go around with this Pacers team. Started with Siakam. Then I'd go to Miles Turner, 19 points. I probably have not spent enough time praising Miles for what he did in this game, in this season. He's incredibly proud of what this team has accomplished this year, about getting home court for the first time in his Pacers career, which is staggering to think about it. But then you're like, oh yeah, that makes all kinds of sense. And he was able to start the game with 3 and in it, along with 19 points, as he grabbed 5 rebounds and had a couple assists as well in this one, as the Pacers get the win here today, 117-98. I'm going to wrap up this live post-game show. I will have one for you after every single Pacers playoff game at fieldhousefiles.com, right here on YouTube. I encourage you to join me live so you can join me with the chat, but no problem at all. You can always watch the replay on YouTube or listen on the podcast. Full coverage of the Pacers fever and the boom now at fieldhousefiles.com. Thanks to everyone for joining me. It's just the afternoon. It's just 5 o'clock. Cocktail time, perhaps. Anyways, hope you all have a great afternoon, and I will talk to you all again soon. Game 2 for the Pacers and Bucks, 7 o'clock, Gamebridge Fieldhouse, coming up on Tuesday. I'll talk to you then.